What if I told you that people only control your emotions when you give them permission to? Someone insults you. Someone ignores you. Someone disrespects you. Someone betrays your trust. And suddenly, your entire day is ruined. But what if you could reach a point where people can do whatever they want, and still fail to disturb your peace? That is the power of Stoicism. Welcome to Stoic Ascension, where we train the mind to become stronger, calmer, and harder to control. The first lesson is simple: stop giving other people control over your mind. Imagine you are walking down the street and someone suddenly insults you. Your first instinct might be to respond. Your heart starts beating faster. Your mind begins creating arguments. You imagine what you should have said. But the Stoic asks one question. Is this person's opinion actually under my control? The answer is no. You cannot control what someone says. You cannot control what they think about you. You cannot control whether they respect you. But you can control your response. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not simply by events, but by the judgments we make about those events. Someone says something negative about you. That is the event. You decide, this person has disrespected me, and I must defend myself immediately. That is the judgment. The Stoic learns to create space between the event and the reaction. Pause. Breathe. Think. Then respond, or don't. Your silence can sometimes be more powerful than your anger. The second lesson is, stop expecting people to behave the way you would. This is one of the biggest sources of frustration. You are honest, so you expect honesty. You are loyal, so you expect loyalty. You treat people with respect, so you expect them to treat you with respect. But the world doesn't work according to your expectations. Imagine helping a friend when they desperately needed you. Months later, you need their help, and suddenly they are nowhere to be found. Your first reaction might be anger. How could they do this to me after everything I did? But the Stoic thinks differently. Instead of asking, why aren't they like me, ask, what has this situation revealed about them? Their behavior is information. It tells you who they are. You don't need anger to understand it. You don't need revenge to respond to it. You simply adjust your expectations, protect your boundaries, and move forward. The third lesson is, don't argue with reality. One of the fastest ways to destroy your peace is to mentally fight against something that has already happened. Someone betrayed you. It's over. Someone rejected you. It happened. Someone talked behind your back. You cannot go back in time and erase it. Yet many people continue suffering long after the event is finished because they keep replaying it in their minds. They lie in bed thinking, I should have said this. I should have done that. How could they? But the past doesn't care how many times you replay it. A Stoic accepts reality, not because everything that happens is good, but because reality cannot be changed by resistance. Imagine spilling a glass of water on the floor. You can scream at the water. You can blame yourself. You can wish the glass had never fallen. But none of that puts the water back in the glass. Acceptance allows you to clean it up and continue. The same applies to life. Accept what happened. Learn from it. Then move forward. The fourth lesson is, master the pause. Your greatest power is often found in the few seconds between what happens and what you do next. Someone sends you an angry message. Don't immediately respond. Someone criticizes you. Don't immediately defend yourself. Someone tries to provoke you. Don't give them the reaction they are looking for. Take a breath. Ask yourself, will my response improve this situation? Will I respect myself afterward? Is this worth my peace? Sometimes the strongest response is no response. There was once a man who was constantly criticized by another person in his community. Every time they met, the man would make insulting comments. One day, the critic insulted him again. But this time, the man simply smiled and walked away. A friend asked, "Why didn't you defend yourself?" He replied, "Because I don't have to attend every argument I'm invited to." That is emotional freedom. The fifth lesson is, understand that anger often makes you weaker, not stronger. People sometimes believe anger proves strength. But think about it. If someone can say 5 words and completely control your mood for the next 5 hours, who is actually in control? The person who provoked you. Real strength is having the ability to respond without becoming a slave to emotion. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming disciplined. You can feel anger without obeying it. You can feel disappointment without becoming bitter. You can feel hurt without seeking revenge. You can acknowledge an emotion and still choose your actions wisely. That is mastery. The sixth lesson is, stop taking everything personally. Not everything people do is about you. Sometimes people are rude because they're having a terrible day. Sometimes people criticize you because they're insecure. Sometimes people reject you because they want something different. Sometimes people don't understand you because they simply don't have the same perspective. You don't need to turn every action into a personal attack. Imagine 2 people walking through a crowded market. One person accidentally bumps into you and keeps walking. You could spend the next hour thinking, that person disrespected me. Or you could recognize that perhaps they didn't even notice. The event lasted 2 seconds. Your interpretation can make it last 2 hours. Choose carefully what you allow to occupy your mind. The seventh lesson is, build a life that doesn't depend on other people's approval. If your happiness depends on people praising you, you become their prisoner. If your confidence depends on people liking you, you become controlled by their opinions. If your peace depends on everyone treating you perfectly, you will never have peace. Instead, build your character. Work on your discipline. Keep your promises to yourself. Improve your skills. Take care of your responsibilities. Become someone you respect when nobody is watching. Then compliments become pleasant, but unnecessary. Criticism becomes information, not destruction. Rejection becomes redirection, not humiliation. And loneliness becomes an opportunity to strengthen yourself. Remember this. You cannot control people's mouths. You cannot control their opinions. You cannot control their intentions. You cannot control their behavior. But you can control your mind. You can control your words. You can control your actions. You can control your response. And that is where your freedom begins. The next time someone tries to make you angry, don't immediately react. Pause. Take a breath. Look at the situation from a distance. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Most of the time, the answer will be no. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to correct every person. You don't need to respond to every insult. You don't need everyone to understand you. Your goal is not to become someone who never feels anger. Your goal is to become someone who is no longer controlled by it. That is Stoic strength. That is emotional discipline. That is freedom. So from today, protect your peace like it matters, because it does. Let people misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them criticize. Let them walk away. Let them have their opinions. You keep working. You keep growing. You keep improving. And most importantly, you keep control of yourself. But there is another level to this. Learning not to be bothered by people doesn't mean becoming cold, heartless, or disconnected from the world. It means becoming so grounded in yourself that other people's behavior no longer decides who you become. Think about a tree during a storm. The wind pushes against it. The rain hits it. The branches move violently. But the tree doesn't chase the storm. It doesn't scream at the wind. It doesn't waste its strength trying to stop the weather. It stays rooted. That is what you must become. Rooted. When someone insults you, stay rooted. When someone rejects you, stay rooted. When someone tries to provoke you, stay rooted. When someone suddenly changes toward you, stay rooted. Your circumstances may move. Your emotions may rise. But your character remains steady. This is where the Stoic practice of negative visualization becomes powerful. Sometimes, we become angry because we assume certain things should always remain available to us. We assume people will always stay. We assume friends will always understand. We assume our plans will always work. We assume tomorrow will look like today. Then reality changes, and we become frustrated. The Stoic prepares the mind for uncertainty. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that something you took for granted is no longer there. Your routine changes. A relationship changes. An opportunity disappears. A plan fails. Instead of saying, "This shouldn't be happening," remind yourself. Nothing is guaranteed. This isn't pessimism. It's preparation. When you appreciate what you have while understanding that circumstances can change, you become less desperate to control everything. You stop clinging. And when you stop clinging, you become harder to disturb. Another powerful lesson is to stop seeking revenge. Someone hurts you, and your mind immediately whispers, "Make them regret it." But revenge has a hidden cost. You continue giving that person space inside your mind. They hurt you once. Then you replay the situation 20 times. They moved on. You're still angry. They forgot the conversation. You're still having arguments with them in your head. Who is suffering now? You are. The Stoic response isn't weakness. It's freedom. You don't need to destroy someone who tried to hurt you. You need to become so disciplined that their behavior cannot turn you into someone you don't respect. Imagine someone throws mud at you. If you immediately throw mud back, now both of you are covered in it. But if you walk away, the mud stays with them. Don't allow someone else's lack of character to become your own. Another lesson is to practice emotional distance. When something happens, imagine you're watching the situation from outside yourself. Instead of thinking, "They disrespected me," say, "Someone behaved disrespectfully." Instead of, "They ruined my day," say, "Something happened that I found unpleasant." Notice the difference. The first statement makes the event part of your identity. The second gives you distance. You are not the event. You are the observer of it. This small mental shift can change everything. Imagine receiving a harsh comment online. You read it. Your emotions rise. You want to respond immediately. But instead, you take a step back. You ask, "Is there anything useful in this criticism? If there is, learn from it. If there isn't, discard it." You don't have to carry every opinion someone gives you. Think of criticism like a package delivered to your door. Someone can leave it there. But you don't have to open it. You don't have to keep it. And you certainly don't have to build your identity around it. This is why self-respect matters. When you know who you are, random opinions become less powerful. You don't need to prove yourself every time someone misunderstands you. You don't need to explain every decision. You don't need to convince everyone that you're a good person. Your behavior over time will speak louder than your arguments. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to focus on being a good person rather than worrying about what others thought of him. That principle is still powerful today. Ask yourself, am I acting according to my values? If the answer is yes, keep going. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You don't need universal approval. Another secret to staying calm is learning when to walk away. Not every relationship deserves unlimited access to you. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Not every disagreement deserves your attention. There is a difference between forgiveness and allowing someone to repeatedly cross your boundaries. You can forgive someone and still create distance. You can wish someone well and still stop giving them access to your life. You can love someone and still refuse to participate in unhealthy behavior. Stoicism isn't about tolerating everything. It's about responding wisely. Sometimes wisdom says speak. Sometimes wisdom says stay silent. Sometimes wisdom says forgive. Sometimes wisdom says leave. The goal is not to react automatically. The goal is to choose deliberately. And here's something you should remember the next time somebody tries to provoke you. They may be testing your patience, but you are testing your character. The moment you feel anger rising, don't think, how dare they? Think. Here is an opportunity to practice self-control. Now the situation has changed. The person who annoyed you has unknowingly given you a training session. The insult becomes practice. The criticism becomes practice. The difficult person becomes practice. The frustrating situation becomes practice. You don't have to love difficult situations. But you can use them. Every time you remain calm when you could have exploded, you strengthen yourself. Every time you walk away instead of arguing, you strengthen yourself. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you strengthen yourself. And eventually, something changes. The same things that once controlled you no longer have the same power. People can still be rude. People can still disappoint you. People can still misunderstand you. But you become different. You stop reacting to every little thing. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop chasing approval. You stop wasting energy on people who don't deserve it. And you begin to understand one of the deepest Stoic lessons. Your peace doesn't come from controlling the world. It comes from controlling yourself. So the next time someone pushes your buttons, remember this. You don't have to press back. The next time someone insults you, remember. You don't have to become their insult. The next time someone rejects you, remember. Their decision doesn't determine your worth. And the next time someone tries to pull you into unnecessary drama, remember. You can simply refuse to participate. Your attention is valuable. Your energy is valuable. Your time is valuable. Spend them wisely. Because life is too short to spend your best hours being angry at people who may not even be thinking about you. Build your mind. Strengthen your character. Control your reactions. Protect your peace. And let your actions become so disciplined that other people's chaos cannot become yours. There is one final shift that can completely transform the way you deal with difficult people. Stop asking, how can I make them behave differently? Start asking, how can I remain in control regardless of how they behave? That question changes everything. Because the moment you stop trying to control other people, you reclaim an enormous amount of energy. Imagine you're dealing with someone who constantly tries to provoke you. Every conversation becomes an argument. Every disagreement becomes personal. They know exactly which words will make you angry. For years, you respond the same way. They speak. You react. They push. You explode. Then one day, you decide to stop playing the game. They make the same comment. You simply look at them and say, okay. They try again. You remain calm. Eventually, they realize something terrifying for a person who wants control. They can no longer control your emotions. And that's when your peace becomes powerful. Don't confuse calmness with weakness. A calm person can still have boundaries. A calm person can still say no. A calm person can still leave. A calm person can still confront injustice. The difference is that they don't surrender their judgment to anger. Anger says, react now. Wisdom says, think first. Anger says, make them pay. Wisdom says, protect yourself and move forward. Anger says, prove yourself. Wisdom says, know yourself. That is the difference between impulse and mastery. Another powerful practice is to ask yourself whether the problem will matter later. Someone cuts in front of you in traffic. You become furious. But ask yourself, will I care about this tomorrow? Probably not. Someone makes a rude comment. Ask, will this matter next month? Probably not. Someone disagrees with your opinion. Ask, will this affect the person I want to become? Usually, no. We often turn tiny moments into huge emotional events because we forget to zoom out. Your life is bigger than one argument. Your future is bigger than one insult. Your purpose is bigger than someone's opinion. Never allow a 5-minute interaction to steal 5 hours of your peace. Think about how much energy people waste arguing with strangers online. Someone writes a comment. They respond. The stranger responds. They respond again. Suddenly, an hour has disappeared. And what did they gain? Nothing. The Stoic understands that attention is a form of currency. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. So stop spending your attention on people who only want to provoke you. You don't have to attend every battle. You don't have to answer every accusation. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. Sometimes the most intelligent sentence is silence. There is another reason people become easily bothered. They are secretly trying to control how everyone sees them. They want everyone to think they're intelligent. They want everyone to admire them. They want everyone to approve of their decisions. They want everyone to understand their intentions. But that's an impossible mission. Even if you behave perfectly, someone will misunderstand you. Even if you're kind, someone may call you weak. Even if you're confident, someone may call you arrogant. Even if you're successful, someone may criticize you. You cannot control the story people tell about you. So stop trying. Your responsibility is your character. If you know you acted with integrity, let that be enough. There is freedom in being misunderstood. Imagine walking into a room where someone has already decided they don't like you. You could spend the entire evening trying to change their opinion. Or you could simply be yourself. You don't need to win them over. You don't need to perform. You don't need to become smaller so they feel comfortable. You simply remain respectful and continue living according to your values. That is emotional independence. And emotional independence is one of the greatest forms of strength. Another Stoic principle is to remember that people are often acting from their own perceptions. Someone may insult you because they are insecure. Someone may criticize you because your progress reminds them of what they haven't done. Someone may reject you because they have different priorities. Someone may be angry because they are fighting battles you know nothing about. This doesn't excuse bad behavior. But understanding it can prevent unnecessary hatred. You can say, I don't approve of what they did, but I don't need to poison my own mind with hatred. That is strength. You can hold someone accountable without allowing resentment to consume you. You can protect yourself without becoming bitter. You can walk away without wishing destruction upon someone. And perhaps the most important lesson is this. Don't become the kind of person you are trying to escape from. If someone is disrespectful, don't become disrespectful. If someone is dishonest, don't become dishonest. If someone is cruel, don't become cruel. If someone is constantly angry, don't allow their anger to infect you. Your character should not depend on someone else's behavior. Imagine someone throws a rock into a calm lake. The water moves. The ripples spread. But eventually, the surface becomes still again. Be like that. You may get disturbed. You may feel anger. You may feel hurt. You are human. The goal isn't to feel nothing. The goal is to return to peace faster. That is progress. Yesterday, perhaps you stayed angry for an entire day. Today, you recover in an hour. Tomorrow, maybe 10 minutes. Eventually, you learn to notice the emotion without allowing it to control your behavior. That is emotional mastery. And when you master your emotions, you become difficult to manipulate. People can no longer push one button and control your entire mood. They can disagree with you without destroying your confidence. They can reject you without destroying your self-worth. They can criticize you without making you question your identity. They can walk away without making you chase them. Why? Because you have built your foundation inside yourself. So remember this whenever life puts a difficult person in front of you. Don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this situation teaching me? Maybe it's teaching you patience. Maybe it's teaching you boundaries. Maybe it's teaching you self-control. Maybe it's teaching you that not everyone deserves access to your energy. Maybe it's teaching you to stop expecting everyone to think like you. Whatever the lesson is, take it. Then leave the unnecessary anger behind. You don't need to carry every insult into tomorrow. You don't need to replay every betrayal. You don't need to keep fighting battles that ended yesterday. Let the past stay where it belongs. Today is another opportunity to practice mastery. Wake up and decide. I will not give strangers control over my peace. I will not allow criticism to define me. I will not let someone else's anger become my anger. I will respond instead of react. I will protect my attention. I will focus on what I can control. Repeat these words until they become part of your character. Because the strongest person in the room isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it's the person who could explode, but chooses peace. The person who could insult, but chooses dignity. The person who could seek revenge, but chooses to move forward. The person who could chase approval, but chooses self-respect. That is the person you are becoming. So when someone tries to bother you today, smile, not because what they did was acceptable, but because you understand something they may not. They don't own your mind. They don't own your attention. They don't own your emotions. And they certainly don't own your peace. You do. But there is something deeper you need to understand. Sometimes the person bothering you isn't the real problem. The real problem is the meaning you're giving their behavior. Someone doesn't text you back. Your mind says, they don't respect me. Someone walks past you without greeting you. Your mind says, they're trying to ignore me. Someone disagrees with your opinion. Your mind says, they think I'm stupid. Notice what happened. The event was small. The story you created became enormous. This is why Stoicism teaches you to examine your judgments. Before you become angry, ask yourself, what exactly happened? Not what you assumed. Not what you imagined. Not what you fear. What actually happened? A person didn't respond. That's all you know. Everything beyond that may simply be your interpretation. This habit can save you from so much unnecessary suffering. Imagine you're sitting at home waiting for an important message. Hours pass, and nothing comes. You begin creating stories. They must be angry. They're ignoring me. Maybe I did something wrong. You become frustrated. Then the person finally responds. Sorry, my phone died. Suddenly, all that anger disappears. Why? Because the story was never reality. It was your interpretation. This is why you must become careful with the stories your mind tells you. Your mind is powerful, but not every thought deserves belief. A thought can appear without being true. A feeling can appear without being a command. An assumption can appear without being a fact. You are allowed to pause and question it. Ask. Do I know this for certain? Am I assuming? Is there another explanation? This simple practice creates emotional freedom. Another important lesson is learning not to demand immediate justice. Sometimes someone will hurt you and never apologize. Sometimes someone will misunderstand you and never correct their opinion. Sometimes someone will treat you unfairly and continue living as if nothing happened. This can be difficult. Your mind wants justice immediately. You want them to realize what they did. You want them to regret it. You want them to come back and say, "I was wrong." But what if they never do? Will you spend years waiting for an apology? The Stoic says no. You don't need someone else's apology to begin healing. You don't need their understanding to move forward. You don't need their regret to reclaim your peace. Sometimes closure isn't something another person gives you. Sometimes closure is a decision you make. You say, "It happened. It hurt. I learned. And now I'm moving forward." That's enough. Think about a person carrying a heavy backpack. Inside the backpack are old insults, betrayals, arguments, disappointments, and regrets. Every year, they add more. Then they wonder why life feels exhausting. You cannot walk freely while carrying everything that hurt you. At some point, you have to put the bag down. Forgive, not necessarily because the other person deserves forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom from carrying the weight. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean trusting someone again. It doesn't mean allowing them back into your life. It means refusing to let the past continue controlling your present. That's powerful. And here's another truth. You will never become completely unbothered until you become comfortable with people misunderstanding you. This is difficult because human beings naturally want to be understood. But sometimes people will create an inaccurate version of you in their minds. Let them. You don't need to chase every rumor. You don't need to respond to every accusation. You don't need to defend yourself against every opinion. If someone has already decided to misunderstand you, your explanation may not change anything. Your job is to live honestly. Let your actions speak. Imagine a river flowing toward the ocean. People on the shore can shout at it. They can criticize its direction. They can throw stones into it. But the river keeps moving. It doesn't stop to argue with every voice on the shore. You need that same focus. Know where you're going. Then keep moving. Your goals deserve more attention than someone's opinion. Your future deserves more attention than your past. Your growth deserves more attention than petty drama. This is why having a purpose is essential. When you have nothing meaningful to focus on, small problems become enormous. But when you're building something important, you become more selective with your energy. You don't have time to argue with everyone. You don't have time to chase validation. You don't have time to obsess over who likes you. You have work to do. You have yourself to build. You have a life to create. So ask yourself, what deserves my attention today? Then give it your best energy. Another powerful habit is to practice silence. Not passive-aggressive silence. Not silent treatment. Real silence. The kind where you refuse to let unnecessary words control your behavior. Someone insults you. You don't need to answer. Someone wants an argument. You don't need to participate. Someone tries to drag you into gossip. You can say, "I'd rather not talk about them." Then change the subject. You will be amazed at how much peace enters your life when you stop participating in conversations that don't improve you. Remember, every conversation has a cost. It costs time. It costs attention. It costs emotional energy. Spend that currency wisely. And when you do have to confront someone, do it with calmness. Don't scream. Don't insult. Don't threaten. Speak clearly. Say what happened. Explain your boundary. Then let their response belong to them. For example, "I don't appreciate being spoken to that way. If we are going to have this conversation, we can do it respectfully." That's strength. You are not exploding. You are not surrendering. You are simply establishing a boundary. And if they continue, walk away. Sometimes leaving is the most stoic response available. You don't have to prove that you can withstand endless disrespect. Strength isn't tolerating everything. Strength is knowing what deserves your presence. The goal isn't to become someone who never gets angry. The goal is to become someone who doesn't let anger make decisions. Feel it. Observe it. Understand it. Then choose. That is the difference between having emotions and being controlled by emotions. So tomorrow, when someone annoys you, try something different. Before reacting, take one breath. Just one. Then ask. What is under my control right now? Maybe your words are. Maybe your body language is. Maybe whether you walk away is. Maybe whether you continue the conversation is. Focus there. Because your life improves when you stop spending energy on what you cannot control. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control traffic. You cannot control other people's moods. You cannot control their opinions. You cannot control their decisions. But you can control your response. And that is enough. Remember the Stoic mindset. Control what you can. Accept what you cannot. And never surrender your peace unnecessarily, ***. If someone wants to bring chaos into your life, you don't have to invite it inside. If someone wants to make you angry, you don't have to give them the satisfaction. If someone wants to misunderstand you, let them. You know your values. You know your intentions. You know the work you're doing on yourself. Keep going. And if you fail to remain calm sometimes, don't attack yourself either. You are human. Maybe you reacted yesterday. Maybe you lost your temper. Maybe you said something you regret. Learn from it. Apologize if necessary. Then improve. Stoicism isn't perfection. It's practice. Every difficult person becomes an opportunity to practice patience. Every insult becomes an opportunity to practice restraint. Every disagreement becomes an opportunity to practice wisdom. Every disappointment becomes an opportunity to practice acceptance. Every stressful situation becomes an opportunity to strengthen your mind. And eventually, you realize something beautiful. Peace isn't something you find when the world becomes quiet. Peace is something you build inside yourself while the world remains noisy. That's the real goal. Not to escape difficult people. Not to control everyone. Not to make the world behave exactly how you want. But to become so disciplined that the world doesn't get to decide your inner state. So today, make a decision. You will no longer react to every provocation. You will no longer explain yourself to everyone. You will no longer chase approval. You will no longer carry yesterday's anger into today's life. You will pause. You will think. You will choose. And when you choose peace, remember that you're not losing. You're winning the battle that matters most. The battle over yourself. If you're committed to mastering your emotions, comment. I choose peace over reaction. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Stoic Ascension for more powerful Stoic lessons on discipline, emotional control, confidence, resilience, and self-mastery. What if the biggest thing standing between you and the life you want is the way you talk to yourself when nobody is listening? Your words become your focus. Your focus shapes your actions. And your actions eventually shape your life. Welcome back to Stoic Ascension, where we train the mind to become stronger, calmer, and more disciplined. Today, we're talking about the power of self-talk through the lens of Stoicism. The Stoics understood something powerful: you may not control what happens around you, but you have tremendous influence over how you interpret it, what you tell yourself about it, and what you do next. So if you want to change your life, start by changing the conversation happening inside your mind. Stop saying, "I can't do this." Start saying, "I will figure this out." There is a difference between pretending everything is easy and training yourself to face difficulty with courage. Imagine two people losing the same opportunity. One says, "My life is over. Nothing ever works for me." The other takes a breath and says, "This hurts, but what can I learn from it? What can I do next?" Same event. Different interpretation. Different actions. Eventually, potentially very different lives. This is the Stoic mindset. You don't need to lie to yourself. You need to stop weakening yourself with unnecessary thoughts. Instead of telling yourself, "Everything is going wrong," say, "Something went wrong. What is still within my control?" Instead of, "I'm behind everyone," say, "My path is mine. I will improve today." Instead of, "I'm afraid," say, "Fear is here, but I can still act." Your inner voice should not be your enemy. It should be your coach. When Marcus Aurelius faced pressure, responsibility, and uncertainty, he repeatedly reminded himself to focus on what was within his control. That is the attitude you need when life becomes difficult. You don't need to control the entire future. You only need to control the next decision. You only need to take the next step. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can tell yourself is, stay calm. Keep going. There was once a man who worked for years toward a goal, only to experience failure after failure. Every morning, he woke up thinking, "Maybe I'm not good enough." One day, he changed one sentence. Instead of asking, "Why am I failing?" he asked, "What is this failure teaching me?" That small change transformed his behavior. He became more patient. He studied his mistakes. He improved his skills. He stopped treating failure as an identity and started treating it as information. That's the power of self-talk. Your thoughts don't magically create success. But your thoughts influence your emotions, your decisions, your persistence, and your behavior. And those things create results. So be careful what you repeatedly tell yourself. If you constantly say, "People don't respect me," you may start acting desperate for approval. If you constantly say, "I need everyone to like me," you may begin betraying your own values just to keep people happy. But if you tell yourself, "I can respect people without needing their approval," you become harder to manipulate. This is where Stoicism becomes powerful. Tell yourself, "I don't need everyone to understand me. I don't need everyone to approve of me. I don't need to respond to every insult. I don't need to win every argument. I don't need to prove my worth. I control my character." Imagine someone insults you. Your first instinct might be to attack back. But instead, you tell yourself, "His words belong to him. My response belongs to me." Suddenly, you have space between the insult and your reaction. That space is power. You don't have to surrender your peace just because someone else decided to be disrespectful. And this is another form of attraction, not some magical force that makes everything you desire fall into your hands. It's attraction through character. When you become disciplined, focused, confident, patient, and emotionally controlled, you naturally begin making better decisions. You stop chasing everything. You start building. You stop begging for attention. You start becoming valuable. You stop obsessing over what others are doing. You start working on yourself. And eventually, your external life begins reflecting the person you're becoming internally. So start speaking to yourself like the person you are becoming. If you want discipline, say, "I do what needs to be done, even when I don't feel like it." If you want confidence, say, "I don't need certainty to take action." If you want peace, say, "I will not allow what I cannot control to control me." If you want success, say, "I will focus on consistent action instead of instant results." If you want emotional strength, say, "I can feel deeply without reacting impulsively." Repeat these statements, not as empty affirmations, but as commitments. Because eventually, your actions must prove your words. Don't tell yourself, I'm disciplined, and then constantly surrender to distraction. Tell yourself, I am becoming disciplined, and today I will prove it with one action. That's stoicism. Not pretending you're invincible. Not pretending you never struggle. It's choosing to become stronger through the struggle. And remember this. Never use self-talk to escape reality. Use it to face reality better. If you're broke, don't tell yourself, money doesn't matter. Tell yourself, my financial situation is difficult right now, but I can learn, work, save, and improve. If you're heartbroken, don't say, I don't care. Say, I care, and it hurts, but I will not destroy myself over what I cannot control. If you've failed, don't say, I'm a failure. Say, I failed at something. Now I have information I didn't have before. Your identity is bigger than your current situation. And your future is bigger than your worst day. Every morning, before the world gets access to your attention, speak to yourself. Say, today, I will control what I can. Today, I will not chase approval. Today, I will do difficult things without complaining. Today, I will protect my peace. Today, I will focus on becoming better rather than appearing better. And when the day becomes difficult, repeat it again. Because your mind needs training. Just like the body becomes stronger through resistance, the mind becomes stronger through disciplined thinking. You don't become stoic because you watched one motivational video. You become stoic by practicing the philosophy when someone disrespects you. When plans fail. When you're ignored. When you're rejected. When you're tempted. When you're angry. When nobody is watching. That's when your self-talk matters most. So from today, pay attention to the voice inside your head. When it says, I can't, ask, what can I do? When it says, it's unfair, ask, what is within my control? When it says, they ruined everything, ask, will I give them control over my peace? When it says, I need this to happen, remind yourself. I can desire something without becoming a slave to the outcome. That is freedom. You can want success without worshiping success. You can want love without begging for it. You can want wealth without allowing money to control your character. You can want recognition without needing applause. Desire your goals. Work for them. But remain at peace with reality. That is the balance. And if you practice this consistently, you'll notice something changing. You won't become emotionless. You'll become harder to control. You won't stop caring. You'll stop allowing every situation to dictate your state of mind. You won't stop dreaming. You'll simply learn to pursue your dreams without losing yourself. So remember this. Talk to yourself like someone you are responsible for becoming. Your mind is listening. Your habits are listening. Your future is listening. And every day, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. And here's where the transformation becomes even deeper. You have to understand that your mind believes what you repeatedly rehearse. If every morning you wake up and immediately tell yourself, today is going to be stressful, you've already handed the day a script. But imagine waking up and saying, whatever happens today, I will meet it with strength. That doesn't guarantee an easy day. It guarantees a stronger you. A Stoic doesn't wake up expecting the world to cooperate. A Stoic wakes up prepared to respond wisely when it doesn't. Think about a man walking into an important meeting. Before he enters, his mind starts racing. What if they reject me? What if I embarrass myself? What if I fail? He stands outside the door for a moment. Then he changes the conversation. I'm prepared. I don't control their decision. I control how I present myself. He walks inside. Maybe he gets the opportunity. Maybe he doesn't. But either way, he leaves with his dignity intact. That's what powerful self-talk does. It doesn't promise you the outcome. It prepares you to handle the outcome. And you need to stop using your inner voice to predict disasters that haven't happened. How many times have you suffered twice? Once in your imagination, and once in reality. You imagine someone rejecting you. You imagine losing the opportunity. You imagine people laughing at you. You imagine everything going wrong. And then you experience all those emotions before anything has even happened. The Stoic approach is simple. Don't suffer from tomorrow's problems today. If tomorrow brings a challenge, meet it tomorrow. Today belongs to you. Use today's energy to build instead of worrying. Tell yourself, I will deal with reality when reality arrives. That's emotional discipline. Another powerful shift is learning to speak to yourself without exaggeration. Stop saying, everyone hates me. Nothing ever works. I'm always unlucky. My life is ruined. Those statements turn one painful moment into an entire identity. Instead, become precise. This person disappointed me. This opportunity didn't work out. Today was difficult. I made a mistake. Do you see the difference? One statement traps you. The other leaves room for movement. A Stoic doesn't deny pain. A Stoic refuses to add unnecessary suffering to pain. Imagine you spill coffee on your clothes before an important event. You can say, of course this happens to me. Everything is terrible. Or, annoying. I have 10 minutes. What can I do? The coffee is the same. But one mind creates a crisis. The other creates a solution. That is the strength you are building. And you can practice this with small things every day. When traffic slows you down, say, I can't control traffic. I can control my patience. When someone takes too long to respond, say, I don't control their attention. I'll continue with my life. When somebody criticizes you, say, I'll examine the criticism. If it's useful, I'll learn. If it's meaningless, I'll release it. When you experience rejection, say, this door closed. I don't need to destroy myself trying to force it open. These aren't just motivational phrases. They're mental commands. And the more you practice them, the more naturally they appear when pressure arrives. There was a young man who constantly compared himself to everyone around him. He would scroll through social media and see people buying cars, starting businesses, traveling, getting married, becoming successful. Then he'd look at his own life and think, I'm behind. That sentence slowly destroyed his motivation. One day, he decided to change his question. Instead of asking, why am I behind? He asked, what can I improve today? That question gave him his power back. He stopped measuring his life against strangers. He started measuring himself against yesterday. 6 months later, he wasn't magically living a perfect life. But he was stronger. More disciplined. More skilled. More focused. And most importantly, he was no longer living someone else's timeline. That's the Stoic way. Your competition isn't the person across the street. Your competition is the weaker version of yourself that you're capable of overcoming. So tell yourself, I don't need to be ahead of everyone. I need to keep moving forward. And when you have a bad day, don't use it as evidence that you're failing. Use it as training. Tell yourself, today was difficult. Tomorrow I return to the work. That's resilience. You don't need to win every day. You need to keep returning. Return to discipline. Return to your values. Return to your purpose. Return to the work. Return to yourself. Because sometimes success doesn't look like a breakthrough. Sometimes success looks like refusing to quit. Sometimes it's getting out of bed when your motivation is gone. Sometimes it's staying silent when anger wants to speak. Sometimes it's walking away from someone who keeps disturbing your peace. Sometimes it's choosing your long-term future over your short-term pleasure. And every time you do that, you're teaching your mind. I can trust myself. That may be one of the most powerful forms of confidence. Not saying, I'm better than everyone. But knowing. When I give myself a promise, I work to keep it. So make your self-talk more intentional. Don't just say, I want success. Say, I will become the kind of person capable of handling success. Don't just say, I want peace. Say, I will stop feeding every thought that steals my peace. Don't just say, I want confidence. Say, I will take action even when I'm uncertain. Don't just say, I want respect. Say, I will respect myself enough to live by my principles. This is how you change. One thought. One decision. One action. One day at a time. And eventually, people may notice that something about you has changed. You don't react as quickly. You don't explain yourself constantly. You don't chase people who walk away. You don't collapse when plans change. You don't need constant validation. You become quieter. Not because you're weak. Because you're no longer desperate to prove yourself. That's the kind of person Stoicism teaches you to become. A person whose peace isn't rented from other people's opinions. A person who can desire something without becoming desperate for it. A person who can lose something without losing themselves. A person who can be criticized without immediately becoming defensive. A person who can be praised without becoming arrogant. A person who can experience success without forgetting humility. And it all begins with the voice you hear when nobody else is around. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself. What did I tell myself today? Did you tell yourself that you're incapable? Or did you remind yourself that you're learning? Did you tell yourself that one failure defines you? Or did you remind yourself that failure is feedback? Did you tell yourself that someone else's behavior controls your emotions? Or did you remember that your response belongs to you? Tomorrow, choose your words carefully. Because your mind is listening. Your future is listening. And the person you're becoming is listening. If you're ready to take control of that inner conversation, comment below. My mind is my responsibility. Share this message with someone who needs stronger self-talk in their life. And subscribe to Stoic Ascension for more powerful Stoic lessons designed to help you build discipline, emotional control, inner peace, and an unshakable mind. Remember, you don't attract everything you desire by wishing harder. You move toward it by becoming stronger, wiser, more disciplined, and more capable of handling whatever reality places in your path. Control your thoughts. Control your words. Control your actions. And let your life become the evidence of the person you chose to become, and here's where the transformation becomes even deeper. You have to understand that your mind believes what you repeatedly rehearse. If every morning you wake up and immediately tell yourself, today is going to be stressful, you've already handed the day a script. But imagine waking up and saying, whatever happens today, I will meet it with strength. That doesn't guarantee an easy day. It guarantees a stronger you. A Stoic doesn't wake up expecting the world to cooperate. A Stoic wakes up prepared to respond wisely when it doesn't. Think about a man walking into an important meeting. Before he enters, his mind starts racing. What if they reject me? What if I embarrass myself? What if I fail? He stands outside the door for a moment. Then he changes the conversation. I'm prepared. I don't control their decision. I control how I present myself. He walks inside. Maybe he gets the opportunity. Maybe he doesn't. But either way, he leaves with his dignity intact. That's what powerful self-talk does. It doesn't promise you the outcome. It prepares you to handle the outcome. And you need to stop using your inner voice to predict disasters that haven't happened. How many times have you suffered twice? Once in your imagination, and once in reality. You imagine someone rejecting you. You imagine losing the opportunity. You imagine people laughing at you. You imagine everything going wrong. And then you experience all those emotions before anything has even happened. The Stoic approach is simple. Don't suffer from tomorrow's problems today. If tomorrow brings a challenge, meet it tomorrow. Today belongs to you. Use today's energy to build instead of worrying. Tell yourself, I will deal with reality when reality arrives. That's emotional discipline. Another powerful shift is learning to speak to yourself without exaggeration. Stop saying, everyone hates me. Nothing ever works. I'm always unlucky. My life is ruined. Those statements turn one painful moment into an entire identity. Instead, become precise. This person disappointed me. This opportunity didn't work out. Today was difficult. I made a mistake. Do you see the difference? One statement traps you. The other leaves room for movement. A Stoic doesn't deny pain. A Stoic refuses to add unnecessary suffering to pain. Imagine you spill coffee on your clothes before an important event. You can say, of course this happens to me. Everything is terrible. Or, annoying. I have 10 minutes. What can I do? The coffee is the same. But one mind creates a crisis. The other creates a solution. That is the strength you are building. And you can practice this with small things every day. When traffic slows you down, say, I can't control traffic. I can control my patience. When someone takes too long to respond, say, I don't control their attention. I'll continue with my life. When somebody criticizes you, say, I'll examine the criticism. If it's useful, I'll learn. If it's meaningless, I'll release it. When you experience rejection, say, this door closed. I don't need to destroy myself trying to force it open. These aren't just motivational phrases. They're mental commands. And the more you practice them, the more naturally they appear when pressure arrives. There was a young man who constantly compared himself to everyone around him. He would scroll through social media and see people buying cars, starting businesses, traveling, getting married, becoming successful. Then he'd look at his own life and think, I'm behind. That sentence slowly destroyed his motivation. One day, he decided to change his question. Instead of asking, why am I behind? He asked, what can I improve today? That question gave him his power back. He stopped measuring his life against strangers. He started measuring himself against yesterday. 6 months later, he wasn't magically living a perfect life. But he was stronger. More disciplined. More skilled. More focused. And most importantly, he was no longer living someone else's timeline. That's the Stoic way. Your competition isn't the person across the street. Your competition is the weaker version of yourself that you're capable of overcoming. So tell yourself, I don't need to be ahead of everyone. I need to keep moving forward. And when you have a bad day, don't use it as evidence that you're failing. Use it as training. Tell yourself, today was difficult. Tomorrow I return to the work. That's resilience. You don't need to win every day. You need to keep returning. Return to discipline. Return to your values. Return to your purpose. Return to the work. Return to yourself. Because sometimes success doesn't look like a breakthrough. Sometimes success looks like refusing to quit. Sometimes it's getting out of bed when your motivation is gone. Sometimes it's staying silent when anger wants to speak. Sometimes it's walking away from someone who keeps disturbing your peace. Sometimes it's choosing your long-term future over your short-term pleasure. And every time you do that, you're teaching your mind. I can trust myself. That may be one of the most powerful forms of confidence. Not saying, I'm better than everyone. But knowing. When I give myself a promise, I work to keep it. So make your self-talk more intentional. Don't just say, I want success. Say, I will become the kind of person capable of handling success. Don't just say, I want peace. Say, I will stop feeding every thought that steals my peace. Don't just say, I want confidence. Say, I will take action even when I'm uncertain. Don't just say, I want respect. Say, I will respect myself enough to live by my principles. This is how you change. One thought. One decision. One action. One day at a time. And eventually, people may notice that something about you has changed. You don't react as quickly. You don't explain yourself constantly. You don't chase people who walk away. You don't collapse when plans change. You don't need constant validation. You become quieter. Not because you're weak. Because you're no longer desperate to prove yourself. That's the kind of person Stoicism teaches you to become. A person whose peace isn't rented from other people's opinions. A person who can desire something without becoming desperate for it. A person who can lose something without losing themselves. A person who can be criticized without immediately becoming defensive. A person who can be praised without becoming arrogant. A person who can experience success without forgetting humility. And it all begins with the voice you hear when nobody else is around. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself. What did I tell myself today? Did you tell yourself that you're incapable? Or did you remind yourself that you're learning? Did you tell yourself that one failure defines you? Or did you remind yourself that failure is feedback? Did you tell yourself that someone else's behavior controls your emotions? Or did you remember that your response belongs to you? Tomorrow, choose your words carefully. Because your mind is listening. Your future is listening. And the person you're becoming is listening. But there is one final level of self-talk you must master. You must learn to speak to yourself when things are not going your way. Anyone can feel confident when everything is working. The real test begins when the message you wanted never arrives. When the opportunity goes to someone else. When someone you trusted disappoints you. When your plans collapse. When you're working hard and nobody seems to notice. That's when your inner voice becomes your battlefield. Imagine you've been working towards something for months. You finally believe you're close, and then suddenly everything falls apart. The old version of you says, "See, I knew this would happen. I'm not meant for this." But the stronger version says, "This wasn't the outcome I wanted. But I'm still here. What can I do now?" That sentence changes everything. You stop asking why life is attacking you. You start asking what life is asking you to learn. You stop seeing obstacles as walls. You start seeing them as training. This is one of the deepest Stoic lessons. The obstacle doesn't have to become your identity. You can experience disappointment without becoming a disappointed person. You can experience failure without becoming a failure. You can experience rejection without believing you're unworthy. You can experience loneliness without believing you're unwanted. The event is not the identity. Never confuse the two. Tell yourself, "This is happening to me, but it does not define me." That sentence can save you from years of unnecessary suffering. Because sometimes the harshest person in your life isn't your enemy. It's you. You forgive other people for making mistakes, but you punish yourself for yours. You tell a friend, "Keep going. You'll get better." But when you make the same mistake, you say, "I'm useless." Why? Start giving yourself the same patience you would give someone you genuinely care about. That doesn't mean making excuses. It means correcting yourself without destroying yourself. Say, I made the wrong decision. I'll learn from it. Not, I'm a terrible person. Say, I wasn't disciplined today. Tomorrow I will do better. Not, I'll never change. There is strength in accountability without self-hatred. And here's another thing. Stop telling yourself that you need to feel motivated before you act. Motivation is unreliable. Discipline is dependable. You may wake up tired. You may feel uncertain. You may not feel inspired. Do it anyway. Tell yourself, I don't need to feel ready. I need to begin. A man who waits until he feels motivated will constantly negotiate with himself. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe next week. I'll start when things settle down. But the disciplined person says, start now. Improve as you go. That is how mountains are climbed. One step. Then another. Then another. You don't need to see the entire staircase. You need to take the next step. And when your mind says, it's too much, answer, then I'll do what I can today. When it says, I don't have enough time, answer, I'll use the time I have. When it says, I'm not good enough, answer, then I'll become better. That's the language of growth. You don't need to convince yourself that you're already perfect. You need to convince yourself that you are capable of improvement. And don't forget the power of silence. Sometimes the strongest self-talk is not a speech. It's a pause. Someone provokes you. Your emotions rise. Your heart starts beating faster. You want to respond immediately. But you tell yourself, wait. One breath. Another. Then. Will this response improve my situation? If the answer is no, silence becomes your victory. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to defend yourself against every accusation. You don't have to respond to every person who misunderstands you. Your peace is more valuable than winning an argument with someone committed to misunderstanding you. Tell yourself, I don't need to prove my character to everyone. That sentence will free you. Because the more you chase approval, the more control you hand away. One person praises you, you're happy. Another criticizes you, you're miserable. Someone replies quickly, you feel valued. Someone ignores you, you question your worth. That's emotional dependence. Stoicism teaches you to build your foundation somewhere deeper. Inside your own character. Tell yourself, my worth is not decided by today's applause or criticism. Then act accordingly. Do good because it's right. Work hard because you're building yourself. Be honest because that's who you choose to be. Stay disciplined because your future deserves your effort. Not because somebody is watching. Not because somebody will praise you. Not because you'll immediately receive something in return. Do it because you respect the person you're becoming. And here's where your desires become more powerful. You stop chasing the feeling of having everything. You start becoming grateful for what you already have while continuing to build toward what you want. You can say, I want more, but I don't need to despise what I have. That is powerful. Because desperation makes you blind. Gratitude gives you perspective. You can pursue wealth without becoming consumed by money. You can pursue love without losing your dignity. You can pursue success without sacrificing your values. You can pursue recognition without becoming addicted to attention. The goal isn't to kill ambition. The goal is to control ambition. Let ambition serve you. Don't become its servant. And when you finally achieve something you've been chasing, don't let your self-talk change into arrogance. Don't say, I'm better than everyone. Say, I worked hard, and I'm grateful. Now how can I continue improving? Because every victory contains a new responsibility. The person who becomes strong must learn how to remain humble. The person who becomes successful must learn how to remain disciplined. The person who becomes powerful must learn how to control that power. Your greatest achievement isn't getting everything you want. It's becoming someone who doesn't lose himself when he gets it. So start today. When you wake up, choose your first thought carefully. Before you reach for your phone, tell yourself, I have another day to practice becoming better. When something annoys you, I choose my response. When you experience failure, this is feedback, not a final verdict. When you're tempted to quit, take one more step. When someone rejects you, their decision doesn't determine my value. When you're uncertain, I don't need to know everything. I need to do the next right thing. When you're successful, stay humble. Keep building. And when you go to sleep, did I live according to my values today? That's the question that matters. Not, did everyone like me? Not, did everything go perfectly? Not, did I get everything I wanted? Ask, did I control what I could? Did I act with courage? Did I practice patience? Did I keep my word to myself? Did I become slightly better than yesterday? If the answer is yes, then you are winning the battle that matters most. The battle within. Because eventually, your self-talk becomes your self-image. Your self-image influences your behavior. Your behavior becomes your habits. Your habits shape your character. And your character shapes your life. So don't underestimate a sentence. Don't underestimate a thought. Don't underestimate what you repeat every morning. Your words are not magic. But they are instructions. And if you repeatedly instruct your mind to stay calm, take responsibility, keep learning, and act with courage, you begin becoming the person capable of creating a different life. So speak with intention. Think with discipline. Act with courage. And remember the Stoic principle. You cannot command the world to give you everything you desire. But you can command yourself to become worthy of the life you're trying to build. That's where your power begins. If this message gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop this in the comments. I will become the person capable of handling what I desire. And if you're serious about mastering your mind, building discipline, protecting your peace, and becoming emotionally unshakable, subscribe to Stoic Ascension. This is more than motivation. It's a practice. A practice of choosing your response. A practice of controlling your attention. A practice of speaking to yourself with courage. A practice of becoming stronger every single day. So the next time life challenges you, don't immediately ask, why is this happening to me? Pause. Breathe. And tell yourself, this is my moment to practice who I say I am.